After Germany and the Axis powers' defeat in 1945, the U.S. had another problem to deal with. Tensions between the USSR and the U.S. were beginning to build up. The U.S. was afraid of the USSR spreading communism to the rest of the world. At this time, Chinese communists had just defeated the Chinese nationalists and were also looking to expand the communist empire. Not soon after, communist North Korea invaded capitalist South Korea. In an effort to prevent the spread of communism, the U.S. intervened and sent troops to support South Korea. The Korean War began on June 25, 1950, and lasted 3 years.
At age 17, John Vlachos enlisted for the Korean War. This was in the year 1951. Before leaving behind his home in Wartown, his family, friends, and his high school sweetheart, John was a star football player for the Wartown Red Raiders. John received many accolades for his performance on the field, including All-Scholastic, All-State, and an All-Scholastic Award for outstanding athletic ability and sportsmanship, which he received from a local radio station, WCOP. His girlfriend at the time, who is now his wife, grew accustomed to having families serve in wars. Her dad served in World War I, and 3 of her brothers listed in different service branches.
Went into Boston, got my physical. All the guys got our physical. And then we marched from there to South Boston, boarded on a train, and went down to Parris Island, South Carolina.
John recalls his training as extremely strict, but says that the training he learned there most definitely saved his life.
It was very strict and a few fights, but it was great training. Probably saved our lives. If you did anything wrong, you'd get put a bucket over your head. And down South Carolina, there was a lot of sand fleas. And then they'd put a blanket over your head, and all the mosquitoes would buzz around and you couldn't move. Guys were fainting.
After his 9 weeks in Parris Island, he was sent to Camp Pendleton in California for his winter training. He then boarded a ship in San Diego.
Well, we boarded a ship in San Diego, and it took us 18 days to get there, and we landed there, and we went on these little boats, and you see them in World War II, the little boats, and go around circle and circle, and then you hit the beach and run for cover.
After landing on the beach in South Korea, he and other Marines were then loaded onto trucks and made their way through Seoul, South Korea. After reaching the front, they met up with their company.
From there, they put us in trucks. We went through Seoul. Seoul, that's the capital. And it was all bombed out because we had fighting in there, and the whole city was all bombed out. So from there, actually that was my first thing. We went on the trucks, and they brought us up to the First Marines, our companies. So, get into a company and see who you were with. And so, it's when you're 17, 18 years old, you don't think much.
John's first battle with his company was on Yellow Hill. On this hill, a few men in his squad were killed. After this battle, him and his company were moved to Bunker Hill. This was the most deadly hill a soldier could fight on. On May 1952, John and his company fought on Bunker Hill. A total of 1,000 men died, and countless more were wounded.
First we went on Yellow Hill, and there was a few guys got killed in my squad. And then they moved us to Bunker Hill, which is probably the worst hill you could go on. No company stayed on there more than 24 hours. We stayed on there for 48 hours. I got wounded twice there. We lost probably, I don't know, it was 50 dead or I don't know how many wounded.
On Bunker Hill?
Yeah.
Throughout the war, John was injured a total of 3 times. On Bunker Hill, he was wounded 2 separate times, once in the arm and once in the leg. Due to his first injury on Bunker Hill, he was sent to a medical tent called Easy Med, where he was treated, but didn't stay long.
I got wounded there, and they shipped me back to, they call it Easy Med, a little hospital.
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed there for 4 days, and then I said, look, I'm okay. I got to go back to my unit. You're not going back to your unit. I get up, and I got a Jeep. Someone was going up to the front. I said, bring me up. So I went up.
So you hopped in without them knowing?
Nobody knew. I think the corpsman knew, because he said, no, you're crazy. You can't go up there. You're liable to get killed.
Mm.
You know, at that point of the game, you don't think like that. You just want to go back with your friends,
Mm.
your buddies. So that's what I did.
After returning from his first injury, John returned to Bunker Hill, where he was injured for a third and final time.
I got wounded once on Yellow Hill, and then when I come back after being wounded the second time, I got wounded again. And he said, you're out of here. And I said, why? He says, because President Eisenhower at that time had an edict. Anybody with 3 Purple Hearts comes home automatically. They brought me down to the base of the hill. They put me on a hospital truck, drove me to Incheon. I was out of there within an hour after I get hit the third time. So I went to Incheon, and then I stayed there for a few days. Do a lot of paperwork, got another uniform, and I went on board ship.
Back to the U.S.?
Back to the U.S.
Since John was not able to return to battle, he was stationed in Virginia. After returning to the States, John was commended with 3 Purple Hearts for his actions in Korea. He was also nominated for a Bronze Star for his bravery and sacrifice in the field of combat. Unfortunately, his commanding officer was killed before recommending John for the award. Later, John married his high school sweetheart, Betty Nell. She wrote to John every day during the war. Many years later, John was inducted to the Wartown Hall of Fame, not only for his athletic ability in high school, but also for his sacrifice in the community and for his country. John later had 4 children named Doreen, Leslie, John, and Chris. John and Betty now live in Bridgewater, Massachusetts. John Vlachos proved to be an American hero at the age of only 17. He grew up very quickly in the Marines, showing extreme bravery and sacrifice. We believe that his story should be shared so he can be remembered for his bravery.